Welcome to Audience First, a podcast for tech marketers looking to break out of the echo chamber, to better understand their buyers, what motivates them, and what they hate that vendors do. It's time to unmute your mic. Are you ready? Hello, everybody. Welcome. I don't know what show this is, but we are here on a panel at CyberMarketingCon. My name is Dani Woolf. I am the co-founder of CyberSynapse. I am here with my esteemed panel.
Yeah, I'm George Kamide. I am the head of community and events at the CISOs Society and also one half of the foul-mouthed cybersecurity podcast, Bare Knuckles and Brass Tacks.
I'm Bronwen Hudson. I'm the marketing lead at Reveal Risk at the moment.
I'm Ben Siegel, founder of the CyberNest and co-founder of the CyberSynapse.
Elliot Volkman, let's just say the producer for Create Chaos, a bunch of podcasts, and also the director for Microsoft Threat Intelligence.
Right on. Let's get into it. So we talked before CyberMarketingCon, and we're like, let's do a podcast. And George, what are we going to talk about? And you said you wanted to talk about community.
Correct. I wanted to bring that up because, one, we have all been involved in either building or maintaining or creating communities.
The dream team of community building right here.
But also because when we all started doing that, one, we did it before it was cool, but two, it is now entered into the common parlance. Like everything is community driven, community this, community that. So I guess I am posing the question to you all. What does that really mean? Is it being used properly? And what does it actually take to create and maintain? Because I hypothesize that it's sort of getting bandied about because there's value in it, but I'm pretty confident that the true cost and time and energy and maintenance is not well understood.
Yeah. Okay. Let me just Google two words that you said because I don't understand it.
But
no,
Which word?
I don't even get it. Go
In
there.
one ear.
Who wants to start? Anybody?
let's start with that
Start from the
guy.
end? Yeah. There was a lot of
You
questions.
did a talk.
There was
You did a talk on Reddit today.
There were a lot of questions.
Yes,
Let's break it down.
I did do a talk on
Okay,
Reddit.
so let's start with. We'll start backwards.
Yeah.
What does it take to create a community, or you can define community as you've come to understand it?
Yeah, so I'll give you a philosophical answer.
I love
And
it.
Community is not something that you can just spend money and make it appear.
Yeah.
Just like everything else in our world, you cannot just build something and they will show up and magically, unicorns and candy are going to be available from a corporate side. So I'd say the argument is, yes, corporations, businesses, we all get our paychecks from, they can help facilitate that, invest in and get that there. But community, as it lives within the cybersecurity world, it kind of happens naturally. Even with like this conference, Cybersecurity Marketing Conference, is hosted by a bunch of people and started with 10 people who had shared ideas and missions and all that. That is where community comes from, and it has to arguably happen naturally. So if a company is starting with just like, I want to build a community because it's going to be great for marketing and sales, that is a horrible approach, and you're just already going to fail out the gate because you're spending a ridiculous amount of money on something with very little initial return. It's like, reminds me of back in the day when SEO just kind of started. They're like, oh yeah, it's going to be great returns immediately. Absolutely not. It takes
Right.
months and months and months.
Yeah.
And you get a little nugget and then you're like, sales, go attack it, destroy it. That's how it is.
I think about community boiled down into three words. For me, it's mission, trust, and then incentive. So mission could be, hey, we believe in the same thing, or we want to see the world the same way. Mission could be like, hey, we're doing the same job. And so naturally communities form because it's like, hey, I know that this person is going through the same challenges as me, looking at the same solutions. Trust, I think, is probably the most important thing in security and largely why to your point, George, community's thrown around so much because it is a peer network. It is trust. And traditionally, it has to come from the people who are doing the job every day to drive that. And so as organizers, it's not so much that we have to do the same job, but we have to understand the job and align the right models, the right incentives, so that they can facilitate that knowledge transfer in the way they want it. And I think that's really important, because when you force how it should be done on a group, when you don't experience what they go through, it's not going to be taken well, and it's not going to be mutually beneficial. So I think those are the three things. The incentive piece is also very important, because if they don't feel like by giving they're going to receive, then it's one-sided, and oftentimes you get high engagement and then it tends to fall off, because the people who are engaging are waiting for others, and they're like, wait, why am I the only ones contributing, sharing, helping others? There's no continual feedback loop.
I think that's very wise. And I think one thing that's, to me, seems unique about the cybersecurity industry is that the community actually already exists. It's available in so many different platforms like Reddit, but also in different sort of subgenres of the work that we do. So when, as a community sort of leader, you get told to go create community, I have a mild sort of distaste for that, because I'm like, it's already there.
Yeah.
Either you're creating a path to it, or you're creating a path from your business to it, which is the kind of cringy part. But really, it's about accessing the community, right? It's not necessarily about creating a novel way for people to communicate with one another. There's a bajillion ways that we can be doing that, and the people are already doing that. Right. So I think that's where that moment of cringe comes in, is thinking that we're doing something unique.
Yeah, it's like an intention. Intention is sort of that flip side of incentive, if we're just breaking down the word, to commune, it's like a group of people have already come together around a shared interest, solve a problem, whatever, whether it's the marketing society or cybersecurity leaders. And so if you come at it with the intention, I am creating this to exploit it later, it's trying to grow a garden on AstroTurf. You can lay it out and it might look great, but it's really hard for you to create it and sustain it. I can't tell you how many people have come into the CISO society and said, oh yeah, I'm in a lot of CISO groups, so this is fine. I don't know. It's one of a billion they're going to join. A week later, they're like, this is way more active. The last one I was in said April 22 was the last time somebody had posted something. So unless there is, I don't feel like I am cultivating anything in there. I'm more connecting dots, because I'm in it every day. It's more oh, hey, I saw you posted that you're hiring for this. Did you also see that somebody had posted the resume of an engineer that's and that's just my job, is connect those dots, but they are going to commune on their own for their own purposes.
You're also keeping all the trash out, though.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Part of the gardening too. Yeah.
That's good there.
It was George's, they're building a garden on AstroTurf. It's I think you can evolve the metaphor there. Yeah.
I think it's about connecting the dots and coming and sharing interest and mission. But beyond that, I think it's about change. Because people, there's access to so much information out there. But people come together to affect change, because they're tired of the status quo of what's out there. So they're coming to these safe spaces to progress in some sort of use case or scenario or problem, right? At least the successful communities, I will say. That's a very important keyword here. Successful communities are affecting change.
Well, I think it's tricky. We talk about building an additive business model versus extractive, right? I think we are at the
Wait, I have to Google that again.
No, you don't.
Additive.
We're at the Cybersecurity Marketing Society's conference, so it seems very apt. What is the typical cybersecurity event? Is gather a bunch of security people with certain titles into a room, lure them with whatever, cigars, whiskey, expo halls, speakers, in the background, strip mine their data and sell it off to sales reps. That's extractive, right? That's that feeling of being used. But if you're trying to build an additive business model, which ostensibly a community is, you just have one litmus test, which is this adding to members' lives, or is it attempting to transact? But that goes back to trust, because if they're trusting you with their data, then they'll just walk away if you start extracting from them. That you will just have, sure, you can build it up to a certain critical mass, and then once they start feeling that, it'll self-detonate.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll just add upon that. We are also in a very strange industry.
Yes.
Our people are a little paranoid, maybe. Some of their hobbies might involve prepping. So, like, there are different attributes that we have to consider when it comes to community building because, like, you don't get a second chance.
Yes,
Yeah.
1,000%.
You ruin
point.
trust, you're gone, especially in your space with, like, the CISOs.
And then they tell all their friends.
There you go.
You're gone. Yeah. Can I ask you a question? Because you mentioned, successful communities. But what do you think makes a community successful?
Constant finger on the dial, listening. As a moderator, yes. or
Yeah,
someone-
listening.
Listening
Yeah.
is the biggest thing. Facilitating engagement. It's so hard. I think community building and field marketing are two very difficult roles in a marketing function.
You're like trying to create an experience, but
Yeah.
not have it be overt.
Yeah, yeah.
Like create the conditions for an experience is the better way rather than like puppet mastering the experience.
And it has to come, I think, to your point, it has to come organically. It's like you're nurturing this gentle, delicate organism that will constantly grow, and it has to come organically, in my opinion. It's not an easy task, but once you kind of hit the sweet spot, you kind of see it take off. It's really rewarding.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about, you said organically and you said time. Let's talk about time. How long does it take to grow a community?
Ooh, good one.
That's a good one for Ben, too.
I don't know. I don't know if there's like a perfect answer.
Answer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe that's the answer. I think it grows small. I think it has to start small, but like you can't be a community of one. But, Cyberness started as 15, turned 50, and naturally it grew based on referrals and word of mouth and sharing and, creating avenues where people can share and feel comfortable to share. I think the better question is, can a community be too big? Like at some point, does it have diminishing returns? And I think that, George, your point of additive or extractive, like, I think you nailed it, because if it's additive, then you're not doing things at the expense of the members. You're doing it because it helps them, or very much they're part of the value creation. Like, that's how we like to think about it, is what are the things that we do that do not make them the product, but make them very much part of whatever product we're creating that benefits them, whatever that might look like. So I think that's the hardest part, is finding where two sides, whatever it is, whether it's like your audience and then your customer, or, those two things are not at odds. And I think that's where it's been so challenging, is we've looked at our members or community as the product versus actually they're the ones who are the reason this exists. So how do we align incentives, or how do we, be additive in the things that we do, whether it is product, because ultimately we have to grow. We have to find avenues to monetize what we do in order to continue to build community.
Yeah, I think that the TLDR is, I would tell anyone who raised their hands in one of the panels here, if they are planning to start a community, it will take so much longer than you think it will take. And it'll be slow, and then it'll take off. Maybe.
Yeah. So,
And then
if
you
you're
just
lucky-
got to, there's a lot of letting go, right? Like, to your point, the CISO Society has doubled year over year, right? So it was like 300 to 600, and we'll end the year with over 13. But you can't expect that all 1,300 are engaging at the same level. I see the super users, sort of. I see some people will come to events, but they're never in Slack, probably because at work they can't get it on their machine, or I don't know. But you kind of have to really let go of the control, and they're just going to get out of it what they want.
Yeah.
So
Argue it. Just because you don't see them actually engaging
Yeah.
doesn't mean they're not.
Yeah.
yeah, I have been told by
true
many
that.
that they are silent lurkers.
So there you go. But
And-
that is like the biggest pool of people, like
Yeah.
minimum 70%.
Yeah, totally,
So
yeah.
the engagement, that content that's being created by like 5% of your people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that is
So-
the value of everyone else.
Yep.
What are the kind of success metrics that you're looking at? I know that's a maybe loaded question, or I don't know.
I think what's a success, to parlay that, I think the success metric is how many people are engaged of the total.
Yeah.
Because I think to your point, yes, people might be getting value and receiving it, but I like to think about things as like, are you guys familiar with like tragedy of commons, where like
Yeah.
everyone thinks that their impact is insignificant? Well, if everyone thinks that, then actually, you know, really everyone is in a shared mindset where like nothing progresses and no one's engaged. So I do think that non-engagement is a detriment to community, and it's really difficult to get everyone to engage on their terms in the way they want it. And so I think that's the unanswered question for me oftentimes is, how do you serve every single person in the same way that they want to be served? Or do you just find the folks who are like your core, highly engaged and serve them? And, you know, to your point, like the folks who benefit will continue to benefit, but, you know, they might not have a seat at the table in how you organize community or how you serve them. Because then you don't really know who you're serving if you don't know exactly like who are your loyal sort of followers. I think that's the challenge of it too.
I was just in Gianna's session about community, and she told a story basically about someone being part of the Slack and then for Cybersecurity Marketing Society, and then leaving because they changed jobs and then wanting to get back in. And Gianna was like, I'd never talked to this person. I had no idea who they were, but was like, obviously come back in, like get in here. And they said to her, like, this is the most worthwhile and amazing group I've ever been part of. And for her, she's like, I have no idea who you are. I've never talked to you my whole life. But hearing that from somebody is totally a success metric, right? Like hearing from a person in the community that they want to get back into it and that it's valuable. That's like direct.
Yeah, I think if you're in it, and there's no clean way to track, but there are a number of members that I will see comment less frequently than others. But when they do, maybe it's after a few weeks or a few months. But to me, it's sort of like a sign that they're checking. They're the silent majority, as it were, or they're in there. But I think it is about creating a space where they feel comfortable in that behavior, that they don't feel like a pressure to contribute. But it's also a place where you can be a mid-market CISO and feel comfortable sharing advice with a Fortune 5. Like all the egos are at the door.
Yeah.
All the bluster that's on LinkedIn is gone, and like you feel like you're among peers, which goes back to commune and trust. But it's hard to maintain. I mean, you have to slap a couple of wrists only occasionally, but for the most part, the community has successfully like policed its own behavior in a more productive use of that word than a negative one.
For me, success is they've made a change either in mindset or in their day-to-day, like the tangible.
Yeah,
Nice.
like a routine.
Yeah. I mean, engagement is awesome, or getting, feedback. Oh, you've helped me, blah, 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 or you're awesome. That's amazing. But hearing that either because we've engaged and because I've listened to, the podcast or read your emails, I now don't want to quit my job and I want to apply what you've told me to the business is like the best.
Yes,
That's
100%.
a great point.
And then I want to add also that community doesn't necessarily mean you have a physical group.
Right.
Like it could be your tribe, quote unquote, who follows you on LinkedIn or like your email database or something like that. So I just want to put that out there.
I love that you put it that way, because then maybe they'll spend less cycles on like really expensive community platforms.
Yes. And I've tried everything out under the sun, by the way, so you don't need a platform.
I agree with you.
Yes.
Amen.
Yeah.
will-
I mean, I've heard,
don't make
I
me.
think it's also an element of self-examination. So going back to one of the other questions is like, are vendors overusing that word? I think so. Elliot, to your point about like, are you thinking of it as like a sales channel? I've had these giant publicly traded companies be like, well, we also have our own community. And I was like, oh, you mean that LinkedIn group that no one posted?
Yeah.
Do
was
those
like-
still exist? I don't know. if
They
still-
do, but it's also like, let's walk it back. Let's think about that logic. Like you're a vendor, you've created a LinkedIn group. No one is going to go on there publicly and talk about their problems
Yeah.
on like open social media. And they're definitely not going to do it with a vendor looking over their shoulder. I just think like the level of thought, like you got to work backwards from like intention. And if it gets to like, if we create this group, we can sell to them. I've never seen it work.
Yeah.
Yep. I do agree with that. I also want to throw out one bit is that like there's a vast difference in success metrics of like people like us who are trying to build community,
Right.
not from a business oriented perspective, but like
Well,
the CS or customer success
Yeah.
is like the easiest route. Like, are you reducing tickets and all that stuff? That's like the short answer, and
Yeah.
that's like their shortcut they should be focused on.
Yeah.
But there is a philosophical element that comes into this, and I apologize if I get a little bit excessively nerdy. 'Cause 12 years ago, I did publish a master's thesis on this, and if you really want to understand how to advance people and get people to engage, it's just map this to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Everybody
Like-
a resounding yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, why would someone engage versus lurk and consume information?
Right.
And you can more or less see that it just follows the same thing. Same with looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So a lot of people will live in that top level where you're just trying to understand and get information. But those like crazy power users who are, trying to get a platform, that's part of like the ego. You're deeper. You have that expertise and information. So that's just like the easiest way to explain from a philosophical perspective.
Psychological.
And we will link Elliot's thesis paper to this episode. Do it. We will process it into ChatGPT.
I feel like a new word needs to be created. That's when you like vendors look at creating community. Because I feel like there's just this word that hasn't been coined yet. Because on one end, like community is when people are helping each other, and like community powered is when like they're the ones driving the validation, or they're the ones that are like sharing the knowledge, versus like traditional, which is like people subscribe and whatever the entity is, I'm the expert and you're taking my advice.
Yeah.
At least that's how we like to think about it as Cybernest, is like we're not the expert, our members are the expert, and so we're just facilitating that. But I do think it gets confused around community versus audience. I think a lot of things are audiences, and it's totally cool and great to be like, we have a great engaged audience and this is how we serve them, and there's elements of community here, but it's really like a core audience. And for vendors specifically, like if community, to your point, George, is how do I, use this as a channel? Well, I think it's misguided, because really your customers are probably not going to talk in your community negatively, right? They'll go to other avenues to do that.
Yeah, I think you're talking like, at that point, you're either looking at customer advisory board, because I want new ideas from the front line, or you're talking user group. Like you're mature enough that it would be really cool if the people who have been using your product for 3 years are educating new users. That's powerful.
I think that's the primary use case of the community, is like
building net new audiences to sell to is like, that is a Sisyphean task.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I don't know if vendors should create community, but I do think they should definitely create customer advisory boards, to your point.
Yes.
So is a customer advisory board a community?
I was just thinking.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was just thinking.
It can be. It tends to be smaller, but there's more of a value exchange there.
Yeah,
right?
totally.
They are coming to that on your behalf.
Yeah.
It's less the like sort of natural. They would not have found each other like, oh, we're all customers of these people. There's less.
Bonding over like technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. So potentially benchmarking and things too. Like there is more of a shared.
Well, so I think, Ben, to your point, the way I have heard it spoken by the CMOs I respect the most is they are saying the questions that the community is the North Star for them, not to create, but they have asked themselves every time they think of a campaign or a product release or whatever, how they're working with sales, is like, how are we showing up in communities that we're not a part of? Which is basically saying, are people shit talking us or are they singing our praises? I see that every day, and it is an amazing experience if somebody says, hey, does anyone have a firm? And people just own it. I mean, that is the kind of earned recommendation that marketers dream of.
Yeah.
But the legwork to get there is brilliance in the basics, just service delivery,
Being human.
yeah, like they've had a good experience and they're willing to stand up. So I think if you thought of now, the present day, sure, you can go out there and you're like the funnel or the customer journey or whatever, but know that whether it's a WhatsApp group between 20 people or a Slack group of 1,300, people talk about you and you're not there. So how do you show up? What is your reputation, essentially? I don't know if I want to call it reputation marketing because that's what marketing was supposed to be. But I think it's worthwhile that a lot of people who are at this conference may or may not know how they are being spoken about in those groups.
True. Can we get tactical? We have 7 minutes left? I don't know. How are we on time, by the way? Are we limited here? 7? So we have 9 minutes? Or 6 minutes?
6.
Okay. So quick fire,
Okay.
tactics, what do we want to talk about on tactics? 'Cause we can go
Don't create community from scratch.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Yeah.
best
Gosh.
practices or tips if you want to start a community or grow an existing one, right? What would be
Give, don't take.
Yeah, give, don't take.
It's just start giving. Sharing
Prepare
it.
for a very long game. You're going to have to set expectations. So a CEO comes to CMO and says oh, I hear this thing about community. You just need to level set very quickly. It takes a very long time and probably not instant ROI. So where do you really want me to focus my energies? If I were the CMO, I would say you really want me to focus our energies on not showing up like an asshole in those communities. Right. So let's fix those things first.
Passion, be passionate. Whoever's moderating or managing, you have to be passionate about what it is your mission is. And then I would say just persistence. That's the two. Just remain persistent because it's up and down. And you don't see, you see growth happen in spurts, right?
Yes.
It's not
Yeah.
consistently hockey stick. It is hockey stick, but
I would also say very clear and transparent communication.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
to your point, if we started in January 2024 of 600, that was enough for Jason, our founder, to know most of the numbers.
Yeah.
At 1,300, that's no longer possible. And also we are making decisions on the back end about what kind of activities we want to do.
Yeah.
And now it's incumbent upon us to go to the community and say this is what we are thinking of.
Right.
Does this, and you just have to have that constant value exchange. You can't just sort of create new features or new whatever from scratch and not have prepared people. Right?
Yeah.
They've come to trust you, so you kind of have to walk towards them as well.
Yeah. What about you, Ben?
I think for me, it's just radical transparency.
Yeah.
People are smart.
Bingo.
Yeah.
They can sniff out bullshit.
Yeah.
So, be authentic, seek to understand, ask for feedback. If things change, validate it. Don't just assume that it's understood, because not everyone's thinking about what you're doing, right? They're in their own world. So I think you have to over-educate as well. You have to over-explain.
Yep.
We kind of assume people get it, or that we assume that
They share your vision of it.
right. And you have to continue to validate it and be transparent about how you're thinking about it, seek feedback, and then iterate on it.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be perfect and it's constantly changing.
All right, I've got 1.5 answers. So the first is you need absolutely clear internal alignment if you're a business and you're trying to do this stuff. I have been in those shoes and it has failed miserably. And it sucked because I loved the concept of what was being offered on the table, but because of internal pushback, it flopped and died. The other piece is if you're a smaller organization, I am fully aligned with you. It's not worth building community. So instead, if you have the ability, Reddit, whatever, monitor existing communities, either through technology, whatever.
It's out there, right?
Yes, totally. Exactly. So just see what's happening and just shut up and listen is the answer.
Love the last one.
Me too.
Where can everybody find your communities? Let's do the shameless plug.
The CISOsociety.com.
Wow, I have 5 million. So audiencefirst.fm, obviously. That's been going on for a while. Check out cybersynapse.io, where we have the Cyberbrain now. It's a community, essentially. And I'm learning how to grow a new community, which is fun.
Right on. If you're a person who is queer in cyber, come join the private LinkedIn group at cybersecurity on LinkedIn.
I love the name. Really.
Yes.
If you're an internal security professional, mid-sized and large enterprise, you can join the CyberNest. at cybernest.com.
You're really going to make me say it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Gross. I'm unfortunately a janitor of the internet on fucking Reddit. go to the GRC subreddit, go to this CISO subreddit that I just booted up again. But also, run Adopting Zero Trust and GRC Uncensored, and we'll maybe decide on a community if we feel like there's value. But we do have the GRC subreddit, and there's community there. But yes.
Awesome. All right, everybody. So this has been another episode of I don't know what show this is, but thank you for joining. And I hope this episode was helpful for all of you who want to build a community. Reach out to all of us. We're available on LinkedIn and email and whatever channel you're surfing on. So thank you.
Party on.
Yeah.
Rock on.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Audience First. If you like what you've heard, feel free to follow or subscribe to Audience First on Apple, Spotify, or any of your favorite podcast streamers.